Hello friends, TechManPat here. Today we have a modem review straight from TP-Link. So big thanks to those guys for sending me this, the VR2100 for review. It's a fiber to the node modem, but it can do it all. It can do ADSL too, if anybody still has that. It can also do fiber to the basement, fiber to the node, and fiber to the house and premises, of course, because it's got everything in it. It can do a lot of cool things, but we're going to concentrate about the performance in VDSL because that's what I'm reviewing it on. And this is really interesting. It is one of the fastest VDSL modems out there. It can max out at 350 megabits a second on VDSL. Yes, that's right, on your copper connection, it can max out on that if your line can handle it. And we're going to talk about speeds in a moment because I got something of a surprise when I plugged this in. And to see that surprise, make sure to like this video and subscribe and wait for the intro. So let's talk about the basic features. Yes, it's got a potentiality of 350 megabits a second on DSL, on VDSL connection. It can have a backup of a 3G, 4G adapter, and that means that if you have something very important that runs at home and always needs a connection, you can have a little dongle sitting on this in the USB connection, and it will always switch over when you lose DSL. It also has the ability to connect up to 4 devices directly rather than using Wi-Fi to connect to each device at a time when it needs a lot of speed. This is actually something called MoMIMO, and it's actually particularly interesting, but it also means that your connections don't drop out and it uses the full speed of your internet connection with every mobile device. And it also means it has low latency and a lot less interference across the home network. So if you get a lot of blackouts in certain rooms, this might actually help, especially when you're using a lot of wireless devices. This also supports TP-Link's One Mesh, which is really cool. Basically, you get to connect a lot of multiple devices and they all speak to each other rather than buying one whole separate mesh network. You can actually connect back to this home device, to another extension and another. And as you walk around with your device, probably a mobile or a laptop, it will choose the best mesh connector and automatically change to that connection so you get the best speed and the most stable connection. It has 4 gigabit LAN ports on the back and 2 antennas. It has a reset button, of course, just in case, and the app is really fantastic. So now let's jump into the web interface to see what TP-Link brings to the table with the VR2100. All right, friends, let's jump into the actual interface. We're looking at the basic setting after logging in with the actual IP address, which would have been 192.168.1.1 or whatever your current connection is. It could be 0.1 or it even might be a more random number, but the standard one is 192.168.1.1. And of course we're looking at the basic interface. So we've got internet is connected. This is a VDSL modem, which means it can connect up to 350 megabits a second. And of course in Australia, if you're on the NBN fiber to the node, it's more likely that you can connect maximum around 100. But I do want to show you something that is really impressive that potentially means once VDSL gets improved and maybe when NBN Co turns off coexistence, we'll actually be able to get higher speeds. You can also see that it's connected to the classic speed test from Ookla, and we'll do that in a second. 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz connections. I am not using that at the moment because I have a mesh device connected directly to the actual Archer VR2100. We can also connect TP-Link's own mesh devices, which is separate from what I've done here, but nonetheless, it can go directly connect in there. We've got a USB disk that can get connected, and we also have the ability to connect a 4G or 3G dongle into that USB space, so it could be a fallback connection. We've got our wireless clients, which obviously isn't accounted for because I'm not connecting wirelessly to the system, and we've got 27 wired clients. So let's jump into some of the features. I will tap into advanced, so let's go from the top. We've got the status of it. We've got our wireless, again, it's off. There is a LAN connection, obviously. You've got your CPU load and memory usage, and I want to show you the speed. This is probably the most interesting thing, probably the one thing everybody's really waiting for, but the Asus one that I had before was connecting at maximum of 95. This is connecting at 134 megabits a second. That's the max rate of the line, and 48 down, but I'm connecting at 144. which means it's above what I'm basically paying for. The beauty is that if NBN Co or my provider provides me with the ability to connect up to 150, I will be able to get a maximum of 134. Now, give or take about 5 megabits a second minus for like the basically connecting speed, like it uses it as like a little bit of a bandwidth, so take that into consideration. But these upload speeds and the max rates are absolutely fantastic. Now please note, I did have an NBN technician come out into my home and actually fix the connection at the node because my line was damaged beyond repair, in the sense of that they couldn't just replug it in or anything like that. It was damaged, they had to recrimp the end, and so that's why it's looking so great. And right now it's 100. So what we can do a quick speed test. So if we just navigate back to basic, because I know you can get from that speed test, it's built into the actual system here. You don't have to go elsewhere, which means that you can actually test what the modem is getting. This is a really useful feature, and as opposed to what your laptop might be getting or your computer. So you can work out where the bottleneck is for your speed test. You can also see that I had 103 on the 12th of the second, and also to 12th of the second, it was 100. But let's have a look now. Let's give it a test. This is probably one of my favorite features because I don't have to navigate on a computer. I can actually log in here and check it. I'm currently not downloading anything, but it is the middle of the day on a Saturday. So the speed is probably getting a little bit slow because of all the people using it. This is probably the fault of the NBN, and it's probably a bit problematic because it really depends on congestion. Nonetheless, in the histories, got 100 down before, and the connection is supposed to be 100. Nonetheless, this feature is really useful, and let's keep moving. Let's go back to advanced because I want to run you through some of the extra features that this VR2100 comes with. Obviously, we've got the ability to have a 4G 3G router modes instead of just pure DSL, and you can connect your fiber to the premise connections with this modem too. It doesn't necessarily have to be DSL. This just has the ability to have it, and of course you can use fiber to the home, fiber to the basement, so it covers all your bases. It's good, especially if you know that you might be moving to a premises that has fiber to the node maybe, and you're on fiber to the premises. You might, let's say you're renting, you're moving around. This would actually be a really good solution for you. In network settings, we've got all the standard features. We've got LAN and MAC reservation, so you can lock in the actual IP addresses of some of your devices in the home to make sure that they're only ever on that one, especially if you're using DHCP. We've got obviously DSL settings, so if you're interested, it's VDSL2 Annex A, bit swap is on, SRA is on, and DT line optimization is off because that's only required by German telecoms, and I'm not sure why it's included because obviously this supports a whole wide range of connections, but it doesn't need to be used. We've got dynamic DNS, we've also got static routing and IPv6 tunneling if you need to use that. We have the ability to connect an IPTV, especially if you're with somebody like IONET or TPG where they provide TV. We've got obviously our wireless settings. We've got the WPS button, of course, built in, and there's a 2-pin function if you also want to do that. We've also got a wireless schedule. It's a little bit different. You can set what times they turn on and off. So if you've got kids and it's bedtime and you got to turn off that Wi-Fi so they're not sitting on their, mobile device, some sort of that doesn't have like a 4G or 3G connection, you can do so too. And we've got actually statistics on what's being used. That's really useful if you want to check if there's a wireless device that's using a little bit too much data. You'll be able to find it out pretty quickly. And we can look at the One Mesh device. So if you've got one of the new TP-Link One Mesh devices, it'll give you a quick demo here, but you'll be able to move around from the actual modem and it'll automatically connect to the next nearest best device or the best connection, and you'll have basically the best speed around the house instead of, having to reconnect to maybe an extension or another router or anything like that. This means that it's all included in one. Your IP doesn't change, it just gets handed off to the next best connection. We've got the ability to have guest networks. Now, I have personally only used this once before when I did have a whole bunch of guests in the house. It was a 2-day event. Nonetheless, they all stayed, and I said, guys, you can connect to the guest thing, but honestly it didn't really change much. It wasn't like I didn't trust the people, but nonetheless it's there. NAT forwarding, and mainly the thing you want to talk about is virtual servers and port triggering. So if you have a server that you want to forward to, it's all there ready to go. You've also got the DMS zones, so you can say which area or which host IP is completely unlocked. UPnP settings, which people mostly keep on.
We've got USB connection, so you've got this storage device, and of course you've got that 3G, 4G backup there with a pin and what the mobile ISP. So you set it all up here and you're done. We've got parental controls, which are pretty important to a lot of people. I think a lot of people don't realize how much they can use this once you have kids, or maybe you're in a share home and you don't want, you know, your buddies accessing things like torrents or anything like that. You can basically block everything you want on here. It works really well. We've got QoS. Now this is a very dangerous thing to use. I would suggest that be careful how you use this, because this, if you start using it and you forget that you're using it, you might be like, oh, why is my internet so slow? Why is my TV streaming at such lower quality? But what I would suggest is the best use case for this is if you've got multitude of Netflix TVs around, you've got lots of teenagers in the home, what you can do is set each TV to a limit of a certain amount of bandwidth. And Netflix doesn't actually need much. It's about 5 to 10 that it needs. And you know, once somebody's using it, they won't max it out and go over the top. So you can still basically use your internet at max speeds. You can also restrict the speed of a device that downloads a lot. That's really useful, especially if you've got kids who download lots of Steam games and whatnot. You don't want every time they turn on their downloads to kill the whole internet for the household. This is really useful. I used to use it when I had, I suppose, streaming in another room, when I had terrible internet. It was good when you had bad internet. Now that the internet is a lot better, you don't necessarily need it. We've got also security. We've got firewall, obviously, for both. We got DOS protection. We can turn that on and select what kind of flooding we want to protect against. So UDP, TCP, and ICMP if required. You probably don't require this if you're not running like a server, but it's there and you can use it. You've got some other settings. Now I would suggest probably maybe checking out a video specifically about these settings, because UDP and TCP is easy to understand, but ISMP probably won't be as. So maybe somebody in the comments can explain a bit more. We've also got access control, so you can obviously access this screen, this information from a separate device, but obviously you can also then access it remotely, and which also brings us back to that VPN setting that I talked about before. Really, really good. You can create a VPN straight into your own network. So maybe you're away from home, you want to access something that's only on your local network, you can do so here. And of course you can access the internet through your home if you have very fast access and maybe you're in another country that's blocking it. This is a really good way to do so. And of course, if you want to service maybe a custom video file through your video file movie or something, this is really useful if you want to access your own computer from here. And obviously sharing some actual files. If we jump into system tools, we can see there is a traffic monitor, and we can monitor all the traffic through all our devices that are connected to this device and the speeds that are getting. Obviously it's a lot of information. You can see here my MacBook Air, the computer, Google Home, Nest Hub, they're all connected and using a little bit of traffic here, but it's a really good way to see it and visualize it and actually check what devices are using what at what times. This is one of the useful features in this new version of the TP-Link modem. Now coming back to the DSL connection, this is probably one of the fastest devices I've ever used with fiber to the node. I highly recommend it just because of this. It has all these other great features that we just went through, but at the end of the day, if you want fast connection to your DSL line, this modem can definitely achieve it, and I stand by that, because comparably to the Asus one, it was losing about 10 to 15 and certainly not connecting this max rate at 134 megabits a second. That is absolutely impressive that I know my line can actually do this, and I'm about 600 meters from the node.
I hope that helped you understand what this modem can actually do and how it can work for you. Like I said, the speeds are absolutely incredible. At 134 megabits a second, that's the limit of my line. This modem can do it, and it's only limited by my RSP. So if you've got a line and you want to check how much potential it has, this VR2100 or AC2100, whatever you want to call it, can actually attain that speed. Thank you to TP-Link for sending this modem for review. I am highly impressed, and I highly recommend it to anyone connecting to fiber to the node and potentially future-proofing yourself for the fiber to the home or premises, whatever you might want to call it. And the only downside I see is the fact that it doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, but that would really increase the price of this, and that's why I think this product is priced really well for everyday use in a home, and the extra use of one mesh can really help to get a big home up to scratch and connected. Friends, thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped you decide if the VR2100 is the modem for you. Make sure to like this video if you did and subscribe to support us. Thanks for watching. Catch you all in another one. Bye!